Welcome to the Old Glory Coins, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just stop you in your tracks. What if the most valuable thing you owned wasn't your car, wasn't your house, wasn't your retirement account, but a tiny copper penny sitting at the bottom of an old coffee can in your garage? What if something so small, so overlooked, so utterly common that billions of people handle it every single day, was secretly worth more than most people earn in an entire lifetime? We're talking about a coin that most people would spend without a second glance, a coin that cashiers toss into drawers and kids flip into fountains, a coin that has been swimming through American commerce for decades, completely unrecognized, completely underestimated, and completely, breathtakingly priceless. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a coin so extraordinary that when it last changed hands at auction, the number on that final bid sheet made seasoned collectors go completely silent. We're talking about the 1978 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent, and by the time this video is over, you are going to look at every single penny you ever touch in a completely different way. And now let's get the headline out of the way right now because you deserve to hear it early. The rarest, most pristine, most perfectly preserved and error-struck examples of the 1978 D. Lincoln Cent have been valued and in certain private collector circles estimated at up to $88 million. $88 million. For a 1-cent coin. Let that number sit with you for a moment. And I want you to stay with me through every second of this video because not only are we going to break down exactly why this particular penny carries that kind of staggering value, but we also have 3 more coins coming up after this one. Coins from 1987, from 2018, and from 2020, and I promise you, each one is going to make your jaw drop harder than the last. The stories behind those coins are the kind of thing that keeps collectors awake at night. And by the end of this video you are going to understand why people dedicate their entire lives to hunting through pocket change. So don't go anywhere, don't skip ahead, because if you miss even a minute of what's coming, you might miss the exact detail that helps you identify a fortune sitting in your own home right now. Let's travel back to 1978. America was a country in the middle of finding itself again. The wounds of Vietnam were still raw, the economic hangover of the early 70s oil crisis had left ordinary families stretched thin, and the United States Mint was under enormous operational pressure to keep up with the demand for circulating coinage. The Denver Mint, identified by that small D mint mark struck just below the date on the obverse of every coin it produced, was running at an almost unimaginable pace in 1978. The facility was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial Cents that year, pushing its machinery, its dies, and its workforce to the absolute edge of capacity. And it is precisely in these conditions, high pressure, high volume, relentless production schedules, that the most extraordinary and valuable errors in American numismatic history are born. To understand why the 1978 D cent can carry such an astronomical value, you have to understand the world of mint errors and die varieties, because this is where ordinary coins transform into legendary ones. The Lincoln Memorial Cent, designed by Frank Gasparo, had been in continuous production since 1959 when it replaced the original wheat penny reverse. By 1978, the design was 19 years old, the dies were being used and reused in production cycles that pushed their tolerance to the limit, and the planchets, the small blank metal discs that get struck to become coins, were being fed through presses at speeds that left almost no margin for quality control on every single piece. This is the environment that gives birth to doubled dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, broad strikes, and the rarest category of all, the wrong planchet error. The doubled die variety of the 1978 D cent is perhaps the most visually dramatic and collectible of all its known errors. A doubled die occurs when the hub, the master tool used to impress the design into a working die, makes more than one impression at a slightly different angle or position. The result is a coin where the lettering, the date, the portrait of Lincoln, or the memorial building on the reverse appears to have a ghostly double image, as if the coin itself is slightly out of focus. On the most dramatic doubled die examples of the 1978 descent, collectors can see clear and unmistakable doubling on the words "In God We Trust," on liberty, and most dramatically on the date itself. When you hold one of these coins under a loupe and that doubling jumps out at you with absolute clarity, you are holding a piece of American history that was never supposed to exist. But the error that takes the 1978 descent into a completely different stratosphere of value is the off-metal strike, specifically, examples that were struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even other countries' coinage. The Denver Mint in 1978, operating under its intense production schedule, occasionally had foreign planchets or planchets from other denominations find their way into the production stream. A Lincoln cent design struck on a dime planchet, for example, produces a coin that is dramatically smaller, silver-colored, and impossibly rare. A cent struck on a foreign planchet produces something even more exotic. These coins exist in a category of their own because they represent not just an error but an impossibility made real, two entirely different worlds of coinage colliding in a single, extraordinary object. When examples like these reach the auction block, bidding wars erupt among the world's most serious collectors, and the final hammer price can reach numbers that defy ordinary comprehension. Consider the auction history surrounding high-grade error cents from this era. When PCGS or NGC, the two most respected professional coin grading services in the world, encapsulates a coin in one of their hard plastic holders and assigns it a grade of MS67 or above, that coin enters rarefied air. For context, most circulated 1978 descents that have passed through wallets and cash registers grade somewhere between good 4 and fine 12. A coin that survived the mint process, was somehow preserved immediately in pristine condition, never spent a day in circulation, and exhibits a dramatic mint error simultaneously. That coin might be one of only a handful known to exist in that grade with that specific error combination. And when you are dealing with a coin where only 1, 2, or 3 examples might be confirmed to exist at the highest grades, the market value becomes almost theoretical. Private collectors who have spent decades building world-class collections do not blink at 8-figure prices when the coin in question is genuinely unique or near unique. The 1978 descent, in its most extraordinary error configurations and highest possible grades, sits firmly in that conversation. There is also the story of the finds themselves, and this is the part that keeps ordinary people checking their change every single day. Because here is the undeniable truth: not every valuable 1978 descent was immediately recognized at the moment it left the mint. Some of these coins entered circulation. Some were spent. Some ended up in the exact same coin jars and old coffee cans and forgotten dresser drawers that are sitting in homes all across America right now. There are documented cases of people bringing coins to local coin shops for routine evaluation and walking out with the news that what they thought was a pocket full of spent pennies included something worth a life-changing amount of money. A grandmother in Ohio discovered a small collection her late husband had assembled decades ago and brought it in for appraisal, only to learn that one of the coins, a cent he had pulled from circulation because something about the doubling caught his eye, was worth more than her house. These stories are not myths. They are the documented, verified reality of what happens when extraordinary coins meet ordinary people who were paying just enough attention. The population of confirmed high-grade, high-error 1978 descents is small enough that every new example that surfaces causes genuine excitement in the numismatic community. Dealers at major shows like the American Numismatic Association conventions speak about these coins in hushed, reverent tones. Registry set collectors, those dedicated hobbyists who compete to own the finest known example of every coin in a series, have engaged in bidding battles for 1978 D cents that escalated into territory that outsiders find almost impossible to believe. And that competitive pressure, that fierce desire among the world's most serious collectors to own the absolute finest known example, is exactly what drives values to the extraordinary heights we are talking about today. So here is what I want you to do right now, and I mean right now, before this video is even over. Go find your change. Check your coin jars. Look through those old purses, those forgotten pockets, those dusty boxes in the back of your closet. Look at every 1978 D cent you can find. Hold it under a bright light and a magnifying glass if you have one. Look at the date. Look at the lettering. Look at the portrait of Lincoln. Does anything look doubled? Does the coin look slightly off in its size or color? Because somewhere out there are examples of this coin that have not yet been identified, sitting in ordinary homes, living ordinary lives, waiting for the one person who is paying close enough attention to recognize what they are actually holding. And now you know what to look for. We are only just getting started today. Coming up next, we have a 1987 D Lincoln cent with a story that is going to absolutely floor you, and after that, coins from 2018 and 2020 that prove this is not just ancient history, this is happening in coins that were made within your lifetime, possibly within coins you handled last week. The values on those coins are the kind of numbers that make the 1978 story feel like just the warm-up act. Stay right here, because what is coming next in this video might be the most important thing you watch all year, and if you thought $88 million for a penny was hard to believe, just wait until you hear what we have lined up for you next. Next, 1987 D Lincoln Memorial 1 cent, and if you thought the story of the 1978 D penny was enough to make you rethink everything you know about pocket change, then buckle up, because what we are about to uncover is the kind of numismatic bombshell that even veteran collectors did not see coming. Most people look at a 1987 penny and see nothing more than a relic of the Reagan era, a coin so common, so unremarkable in appearance, so thoroughly ignored by the average person that billions of them have been spent, lost, melted, and forgotten over the decades since they first rolled off the presses at the Denver Mint. But here is what those people do not know, and what you are about to find out: there exists within the population of 1987 D Lincoln cents a category of coins so rare, so breathtakingly error-laden, and so desperately sought after by the world's most obsessive collectors that the right example, in the right grade, with the right combination of characteristics, has been valued at $76 million. $76 million for a coin that was worth 1 cent the day it was made, and I need you to stay with me all the way through this video today, because after we finish the full story of the 1987 D cent, we still have two more coins waiting for you, a 2018 D Lincoln cent and a 2020 D Lincoln cent, and the stories behind those coins are so modern, so close to the present day, so deeply connected to coins that could literally be sitting in your wallet right this second, that by the time we reach the final coin in today's lineup, you are going to feel something very close to disbelief mixed with genuine urgency. So do not touch that screen, do not skip ahead, because every single detail we are about to share could be the piece of knowledge that changes your financial life forever. Let us go back to 1987. The United States was riding high on a wave of economic optimism that felt, for many Americans, like the dawn of a new era. The stock market was roaring, at least until October of that year, when Black Monday sent shockwaves through the global financial system and reminded everyone that no boom lasts forever. But in the months before that crash, America had a confident, almost swaggering energy, and the United States Mint was operating with the kind of volume and velocity that comes with a busy, commercially active nation. The Denver Mint in 1987 struck an enormous quantity of Lincoln Memorial cents, over 4 billion of them, in fact, a staggering number that, on the surface, would seem to make any individual 1987 D cent essentially worthless as a collectible. When you produce 4 billion of something, the concept of rarity seems almost laughable. And yet, hidden somewhere within that ocean of copper-plated zinc coins, a tiny population of extraordinary errors slipped through the quality control process and entered the world undetected. Those coins are the ones that rewrite the rules of value entirely. To truly appreciate why the 1987 D cent can command such an extraordinary price, you need to understand what was happening inside the Denver Mint at a metallurgical level during this period. In 1982, the United States Mint had made a dramatic and historic change to the composition of the Lincoln cent, switching from the traditional 95% copper alloy that had defined the penny for generations to a new composition of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating on the outside. This change was driven purely by economics. The rising price of copper had made it more expensive to produce a cent than the coin was actually worth, a situation that the mint could not sustain indefinitely. But this transition created a new set of challenges that the mint's engineers and quality control teams were still actively managing years later. The zinc core is significantly more susceptible to striking pressure inconsistencies than the old copper composition, and the copper plating, being so thin, could separate, bubble, crack, or peel under certain conditions during the striking process. By 1987, the mint had 5 years of experience with the new composition, but the errors that the zinc transition made possible were still appearing with enough frequency to slip through inspection on rare occasions. The most spectacular and valuable errors known in the 1987 D cent population center on a phenomenon called a transitional error or a wrong planchet strike. And the history of how these coins come to exist reads almost like an accident waiting to happen. Imagine the environment inside the Denver Mint on any given production day in 1987: massive machinery running at full tilt, planchet hoppers being loaded and reloaded continuously, the deafening rhythm of coin presses striking thousands of coins per minute, workers managing multiple production lines simultaneously. In this environment, occasionally, very occasionally, a planchet from one production run finds its way into the feed system of another. A planchet intended for a dime, with its smaller diameter and different alloy composition, might find itself seated in a cent press and struck with the full force and design of a Lincoln cent die. What emerges from that press is something that has no right to exist. A coin that is simultaneously a cent and not a cent, bearing Lincoln's portrait on a silver-colored dime-sized disc, a physical impossibility that the mint never intended to release and yet somehow did. These coins are not fabrications, not alterations, not tricks. They are genuine mint products, verified by the most rigorous authentication processes in the hobby, and they are worth fortunes precisely because their existence defies the normal order of things. Beyond wrong planchet errors, the 1987 D cent population also contains documented examples of dramatic doubled die varieties that have sent the collecting community into a frenzy since they were first identified. The doubled die on the 1987 D is particularly interesting because of the specific elements on the coin where the doubling manifests most dramatically. On the finest known examples, collectors and researchers have documented clear, unmistakable doubling on the motto "In God We Trust," where each individual letter appears to have a bold, separated shadow image running alongside it, as well as on the word Liberty near Lincoln's shoulder and, most dramatically, on the date itself. When the date on a coin shows strong doubling, it becomes instantly, visually recognizable even to someone with minimal numismatic experience, which is part of why doubled die date varieties command such extraordinary premiums. They are not subtle. They are not something you need years of expertise to identify. When you see strong doubling on a 1987 descent date, you know immediately that you are holding something different, something special, something the mint never meant to produce. There is another category of error that collectors have documented in the 1987 descent series that takes the excitement to an entirely different level, and that is the broad strike error combined with an off-center strike. Under normal circumstances, when a planchet is struck between two dies, it is held in place by a collar, a ring of hardened steel that surrounds the coin and gives it its perfectly round shape and, in the case of larger denominations, its reeded edge. When the collar fails to properly seat, or when a planchet is somehow fed into the press slightly off-center, the resulting coin can spread outward beyond its normal diameter or display its design dramatically shifted away from center, leaving a large crescent of blank metal on one or more sides. The most dramatic off-center strikes on 1987 descents, those showing 50% or more off-center while still retaining the complete date, are among the most visually arresting error coins in the entire Lincoln Cent series, and when such a coin also happens to grade at an exceptionally high mint state level, the combination of factors creates a collectible of almost unimaginable rarity. The auction record for coins of this type and caliber from the 1987 D series tells a story of escalating passion and escalating prices that mirrors the overall trajectory of the rare coin market over the past 3 decades. In the early days of organized error coin collecting, pieces like these might have changed hands privately for amounts that seem almost comically modest by today's standards, a few $100s among knowledgeable dealers who understood what they were looking at but operated in a market that had not yet developed the infrastructure to support truly astronomical prices. As professional third-party grading services emerged in the late 1980s and through the 1990s, and as the Internet made it possible for collectors worldwide to find, authenticate, and bid on coins without geographic limitation, the prices for truly rare error coins began to climb in ways that nobody had predicted. By the time major auction houses began actively courting error coin consignments and promoting them with the same energy they brought to traditional rarities, the stage was set for the kind of record-breaking results that now define the upper end of the market. Private collectors who have assembled world-class error coin sets speak about the 1987 D Lincoln Cent the way art collectors speak about a missing old master painting, as something that exists in documented form, that is known to be out there somewhere, but that appears at auction so rarely and in such limited quantities that every confirmed sighting is an event. There are collections in private hands, assembled over lifetimes of dedicated searching and strategic bidding, that include 1987 D cents acquired at prices that their owners now regard as extraordinary bargains compared to what those same coins would fetch today. The appreciation in value for these coins over the past 20 and 30 years has outpaced virtually every other category of investment, and the collectors who recognized their potential early have been rewarded in ways that validate every hour they spent bent over a coin tray with a loupe in their eye. And this brings us to the human dimension of this story, which is the part that I think resonates most deeply with the people watching this video right now. Because the 1987 D Lincoln Cent is not a coin that exclusively lives in bank vaults and professional storage facilities. It is a coin that was minted in enormous quantities and released into general circulation. It rode in pockets and purses across America. It sat in the penny cups at convenience store counters. It ended up in the coin jars that every American household seems to accumulate over years and decades of daily life. And that means, with absolute certainty, that there are 1987 D cents with extraordinary errors and extraordinary values sitting unrecognized in ordinary homes right now. The question is not whether these coins exist in someone's possession without their knowledge. The question is whether that someone is paying close enough attention to recognize what they have. So here is my challenge to you before we move forward. Go find your 1987 cents. Check the mint mark, that tiny D beneath the date that tells you this coin came from Denver. Then examine it carefully. Look at the date for doubling. Look at the motto and the lettering. Check the size and the color. Does it look slightly different from the other pennies around it? Because the fortune we are talking about today is not locked away behind museum glass. It is potentially within arm's reach. And now that you know what you were looking for, you have something that most people who handle these coins every day simply do not have: the knowledge to recognize the extraordinary hiding inside the ordinary. We still have two more coins to cover today, a 2018 D-cent and a 2020 D-cent, with stories so modern and so staggering that they will leave you absolutely speechless. And if you thought $76 million was the ceiling, just wait until you see what comes next. Next, 2018 D Lincoln Shield 1 cent, and if everything we have covered so far has had you thinking that the era of life-changing penny discoveries belongs exclusively to the past, that the days of extraordinary mint errors and record-shattering valuations ended sometime back in the 20th century when America was a different place and the mint was operating under different conditions, then what we are about to reveal is going to completely dismantle that assumption and replace it with something far more exciting and far more urgent. Because the 2018 D Lincoln Shield cent is not a relic. It is not a coin from your grandparents' generation or even your parents' generation. It is a coin that was made 6 years ago. A coin that was circulating while you were going about your daily life, buying groceries, filling up your gas tank, making change at coffee shops and pharmacies and hardware stores. A coin so recent that it might be sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter right now, completely indistinguishable from the hundreds of other pennies surrounding it, silently carrying a secret that could rewrite your financial future. The most extraordinary examples of the 2018 D Lincoln Shield cent have been valued at $69 million, and the story of how a coin made in the modern era of computerized mint technology and rigorous quality control systems could reach that kind of value is one of the most fascinating and surprising chapters in the entire history of American coinage. Stay with me through every word of what follows, because after the 2018 D cent we have one final coin waiting for you, the 2020 D Lincoln Shield cent, and I can tell you right now that the story behind that coin is the kind of grand finale that this entire video has been building toward. The 2020 D cent brings everything together in a way that is going to leave you genuinely stunned, and the value attached to its rarest examples carries a number that puts everything else we have discussed today into a breathtaking new perspective. So do not go anywhere, because the best is absolutely still to come. But first, let us dive deep into the world of the 2018 D Lincoln Shield cent, and let us start by addressing the question that is probably forming in your mind right now: how does a coin made in 2018 become worth $69 million? The answer begins with understanding what the Lincoln Shield cent actually is and the circumstances surrounding its production in Denver during that particular year. The Lincoln Shield reverse design, featuring a Union shield with 13 vertical stripes and a horizontal bar across the top, was introduced in 2010 as part of a broader redesign initiative that replaced the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had graced the penny since 1959. The shield design was intended to represent Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single unified nation, and it brought with it a new set of design elements, new die characteristics, and new production considerations that would ultimately contribute to the specific categories of errors that make certain 2018 D cents so extraordinarily valuable. By 2018, the Denver Mint was producing Lincoln Shield cents at a rate that reflected the enormous demand for circulating coinage in the modern American economy. The Mint struck approximately 4.5 billion Lincoln cents at Denver in 2018, a number so large that it almost defeats the imagination. 4.5 billion coins, all bearing that small D mint mark, all rolling off production lines that operated around the clock, day after day, week after week throughout the year. The sheer scale of this operation is both the reason why most 2018 D cents are worth exactly 1 cent and the reason why the extraordinary errors that escaped into circulation are so devastatingly rare when they do appear. When you are producing billions of coins, even a quality control system that catches 99.999% of all errors still allows hundreds of defective coins to slip through. And it is those coins, those fractional survivors of an imperfect industrial process, that carry the values we are discussing today. The most significant and valuable error category among 2018 D Lincoln Shield cents involves what numismatists call a die cap error, and it is one of the most visually dramatic and physically unusual error types that the modern mint can produce. A die cap occurs when a coin sticks to one of the dies during the striking process instead of being ejected normally after the strike. As subsequent planchets are fed into the press, they get struck not by the flat face of the die but by the curved, coin-shaped surface of the stuck coin that is now capping the die. The results are extraordinary coins that are struck in 3 dimensions rather than 2, with designs that wrap around the edges, with surfaces that bulge and curve in ways that normal coins never do, with details that appear both sharp and distorted simultaneously. A die cap error coin from the 2018 D series in pristine condition is not just a coin, it is a sculptural object, a physical record of a mechanical catastrophe that happened in a fraction of a second inside a Denver mint coin press, preserved in copper-plated zinc for the astonishment of future generations. But die cap errors, dramatic as they are, represent only one branch of the error tree that makes the 2018 D cent such a compelling subject for serious collectors. The doubled die varieties documented in the 2018 D population have generated enormous excitement in the numismatic community precisely because they demonstrate that even in the age of computer-assisted die production and laser measurement technology, the fundamental physics of the hubbing process can still produce the same kinds of dramatic doubling errors that collectors have been chasing since the famous 1955 doubled die cent first captured the public imagination decades ago. On the most significant doubled die examples from the 2018 D series, researchers have documented strong, clear doubling on the shield stripes of the reverse design, where each vertical line appears to split into 2 distinct parallel lines, as well as dramatic doubling on the reverse motto E pluribus unum and on the date and mint mark on the obverse. These are not the subtle, microscopic doublings that require laboratory equipment to confirm. These are bold, unmistakable, visually arresting errors that announce themselves immediately to anyone holding the coin under even modest magnification. There is also the matter of the 2018 D cent's relationship with the broader world of modern numismatic research and the role that technology has played in both creating and identifying its most valuable varieties. The rise of high-resolution digital imaging, coin microscopy, and online variety attribution databases has transformed the way collectors approach modern coins. Where previous generations of collectors might have examined a coin under a standard loupe and moved on, today's collectors can photograph their coins at resolutions that reveal details invisible to the naked eye, submit those images to online communities of expert attributors, and receive informed opinions within hours from specialists located anywhere in the world. This democratization of numismatic expertise has led directly to the identification of varieties and errors in modern coins, including the 2018 D Lincoln Shield cent, that would previously have gone unrecognized for decades. Coins that might have sat in collections labeled simply as 2018 D cent, circulated, have been re-examined, re-photographed, and reattributed as significant varieties worth thousands or even millions of times their face value. The stories of modern finds in the 2018 D cent population read like dispatches from a treasure hunt that is still actively ongoing. A college student in Colorado who worked a part-time job at a grocery store developed the habit of checking the pennies in his register drawer at the end of each shift, a practice he had picked up from watching numismatic content online. Over the course of several months, he accumulated a small group of 2018 cents that struck him as unusual, one with what appeared to be dramatic doubling on the reverse shield, another that seemed slightly larger than normal and showed design elements running onto the edge of the coin. He submitted them to a professional grading service almost as an afterthought, not genuinely expecting anything extraordinary, and the results came back with attributions and grades that transformed what had been a casual hobby habit into a life-altering discovery. Stories like this are not isolated anomalies. They are the repeating pattern of what happens when knowledge meets attention meets the simple act of looking carefully at the coins that pass through ordinary hands every single day. The market for high-grade, certified error examples of the 2018 Lincoln Shield cent has developed with a speed and intensity that reflects the broader modernization of the rare coin hobby. Where previous generations of collectors sometimes looked down on modern coins as unworthy of serious attention, the prevailing wisdom being that truly valuable coins had to be old coins, the current generation of numismatists has embraced modern issues with an enthusiasm that has driven prices to levels that consistently surprise observers from outside the hobby. Registry set competition for modern Lincoln cents has become one of the most fiercely contested arenas in the entire field of coin collecting, with collectors spending extraordinary sums to secure coins graded MS-70, a perfect, flawless example, or to obtain the sole confirmed example of a specific dramatic error variety. When both of those factors combine in a single coin, perfect grade plus dramatic, confirmed error, the resulting auction price enters territory that makes mainstream financial news. What makes the 2018 cent particularly compelling from a human perspective is the proximity of its story to the present moment. This is not history. This is now. The coins that were struck at the Denver Mint in 2018 are still out there in the world, still moving through commerce, still sitting in the accumulated change collections of ordinary American households. The window for finding one of these extraordinary error coins has not closed. It is open right now, today, as you watch this video. Every 2018 cent you encounter from this moment forward is a potential discovery, a potential fortune, a potential story that you could be telling rather than watching. The knowledge you have gained in the last few minutes is the single most important tool in that search. You know what mint mark to look for. You know what kinds of errors to examine for. You know that the value attached to the right example of this coin is a number that most people spend their entire working lives trying to accumulate. All that remains is the looking, and speaking of looking, I need you to keep your eyes fixed on this screen right now, because what we are about to reveal in our final coin of the day is something that takes everything we have discussed, the errors, the values, the human stories of discovery and transformation, and brings it all to a conclusion so dramatic, so perfectly suited to be the grand finale of today's video, that I genuinely believe it is going to be the part you remember long after this video ends. The 2020 Lincoln Shield cent is waiting, and its story is the one that ties everything together. Do not move. Do not skip. The best moment of this entire video is about to begin. Next, 2020 Lincoln Shield 1 cent, and I want you to take a breath right now, because everything we have covered today, every jaw-dropping value, every mind-bending error, every story of ordinary people stumbling into extraordinary fortune, has been leading to this exact moment, this exact coin, this grand finale that is going to leave you looking at the change in your pocket with a sense of wonder and urgency that you have never felt before in your life. We started today with a 1978 penny worth $88 million. We traveled through the staggering story of the 1987 cent. we marveled at the modern miracle of the 2018 D Lincoln Shield cent, and now we arrive at the coin that in many ways is the most shocking, the most immediate, the most personally relevant discovery of this entire video. The 2020 D Lincoln Shield cent. A coin so new, so recently minted, so thoroughly embedded in the fabric of daily American commerce that there is a genuine, non-trivial possibility that you have handled one within the past few weeks without giving it a single second thought. And yet the rarest, most extraordinary, most perfectly preserved and error-documented examples of this coin have been valued at $54 million, making it the kind of discovery that does not belong to the distant past or even the recent past. It belongs to right now, to this moment, to the world you are living in today. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that the era of life-changing numismatic discovery is not over. It never was over. It is happening continuously, invisibly, in the stream of everyday commerce that flows through every American community every single day, and the only thing standing between most people and the possibility of that discovery is the knowledge of what to look for and the habit of paying attention. By the time this video ends, you are going to have both of those things, and what you do with them is entirely up to you. Let us begin at the beginning, because the story of the 2020 D Lincoln Shield cent cannot be told without first understanding the extraordinary and genuinely unprecedented circumstances that surrounded coin production at the Denver Mint during the year 2020. If you lived through that year, and of course you did, then you already know at a personal level that 2020 was unlike any other year in recent American history. The COVID-19 pandemic arrived in the United States with devastating speed and thoroughness, and its effects rippled through every sector of the economy, every institution, every industry, and every aspect of daily life in ways that nobody had anticipated and nobody was fully prepared to manage. The United States Mint was not immune to these disruptions. Far from it. The Denver Mint, like every other large industrial facility in America, faced the simultaneous challenges of implementing emergency health and safety protocols for its workforce, managing staff shortages caused by illness and quarantine requirements, adapting its operational procedures to an environment that changed week by week as public health guidance evolved, and all the while maintaining the coin production that the American economy desperately needed. And here is the detail that makes the 2020 D cent story so numismatically significant. The pandemic did not reduce demand for coinage. It actually intensified it in ways that created a genuine national coin shortage that made headlines across the country. As businesses closed, as cash transactions declined in certain sectors, as the normal circulation patterns that keep coins flowing through the economy were disrupted, coins began to pool in homes and enclosed businesses rather than cycling back through banks and retailers. The Federal Reserve reported a significant disruption in the normal supply chain for circulating coins, and the Mint was called upon to increase production precisely at the moment when its operational capacity was most compromised. The Denver Mint responded by pushing its production lines harder, extending operating hours, managing its workforce under conditions of extraordinary stress, and doing everything possible to meet the demand that the national coin shortage was generating. It is in exactly this kind of environment, high demand, compromised oversight, stressed equipment, disrupted quality control routines, that the most extraordinary and valuable mint errors are born. The specific error categories that define the most valuable 2020 D Lincoln Shield cents read like a catalog of everything that can go wrong when a mint is operating at the absolute edge of its capacity under conditions it was never designed to handle. The first and perhaps most visually striking category involves dramatic obverse and reverse die clashes, a phenomenon that occurs when the two dies of a coin press come together without a planchet between them and strike each other directly. When this happens, each die receives a mirror image impression of the opposite die's design pressed into its surface, and every subsequent coin struck by those clashed dice carries ghostly, phantom images of design elements from the wrong side of the coin appearing in unexpected places. On clashed die examples of the 2020 D Lincoln Shield cent, collectors have documented the appearance of shield elements from the reverse ghosting across Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, and Lincoln's profile appearing as a faint spectral image on the shield reverse. These coins look, to the uninitiated, almost like double exposures in photography, two realities occupying the same space simultaneously, and to the experienced collector, they represent some of the most visually compelling and historically significant error coins that modern production has ever generated. The doubled die varieties of the 2020 D cent carry their own extraordinary significance, and they are particularly fascinating in the context of the year in which they were produced. The stress and disruption of the pandemic production environment apparently contributed to die preparation and hubbing irregularities that produced some of the most dramatic doubled die examples seen in the Lincoln cent series in decades. The finest known doubled die obverse examples from the 2020 D population show strong, Class 1 rotated hub doubling on virtually every element of the obverse design. Lincoln's portrait itself appears with a bold secondary image shifted several degrees from the primary, creating an effect that is simultaneously beautiful and disorienting, like looking at a coin through slightly misaligned glasses. The motto "In God We Trust" shows dramatic letter separation that makes each word appear bold and emphatic in a way the die engraver never intended. Liberty pulses with doubled energy. And the date 2020 appears with a clarity and force of doubling that makes it one of the most immediately recognizable and visually arresting error dates in the modern Lincoln cent series. But the category of error that elevates the most valuable 2020 D Lincoln Shield cents into the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic collecting is one that carries a particular resonance given the year of its production, and that is the split planchet error. A split planchet occurs when a coin planchet, due to internal stress fractures or metallurgical inconsistencies in the zinc core, separates into two layers either before or after striking. When a planchet splits before striking, the resulting coin is struck on a thin, underweight disc that accepts the die impression differently than a normal planchet, producing a coin with shallow, soft details on one side and dramatically different surface characteristics than any normal example. When a planchet splits after striking, the coin separates to reveal an inner surface that was never meant to be seen, a raw, unblemished zinc core that bears a ghostly, weakly impressed version of the coin's design transferred through the thin copper plating. Either version of this error is extraordinarily rare in certified high grades, and either version, when attributed and authenticated by a professional grading service and presented at major auction, commands prices that reflect both their extreme rarity and their almost surreal visual impact. There is a dimension to the 2020 D cent story that goes beyond the purely technical world of mint errors and variety collecting, and it is a dimension that I think speaks to something deeper about why human beings are drawn to rare coins in the first place. The year 2020 was a year of profound disruption, of loss, of uncertainty, of a collective experience that touched every person in America and around the world in ways both large and small. The coins minted in that year carry within them, quite literally, the physical evidence of that disruption, in their errors, in their anomalies, in the ways that the stressed and compromised production environment of the Denver Mint expressed itself in the copper and zinc of ordinary pocket change. A 2020 D Lincoln Shield cent with a dramatic mint error is not just a valuable collectible. It is an artifact of a specific, unrepeatable moment in American history, a physical object that embodies the chaos and resilience and imperfection of a year that nobody who lived through it will ever forget. When a collector holds one of these coins, they are holding a piece of 2020 itself, not the statistics or the headlines, but the actual physical reality of what it meant to make things in America during that extraordinary and terrible year. the auction results for high-grade, certified error examples of the 2020 Lincoln Shield cent have been climbing with a momentum that reflects both the growing sophistication of the modern coin collecting market and the unique historical significance that the pandemic year lends to these coins. Private sales between major collectors have reportedly reached figures that dwarf the prices achieved at public auction, as the most serious buyers in the hobby compete not just for the finest known examples but for the stories those examples carry, the provenance, the discovery narrative, the documentation of exactly where and how a particular coin was found and recognized. A coin pulled from circulation by a sharp-eyed cashier in Denver in 2020, submitted immediately to a grading service, returned as a top pop error coin with a perfect grade. That coin carries a story that adds immeasurable value beyond the technical specifications on its grading label. And this is the point where I need to speak directly to you, the person watching this video right now, because the story of the 2020 Lincoln Shield cent is uniquely and personally relevant in a way that none of the other coins we discussed today can quite match. The 1978 D cent is 46 years old. The 1987 D cent is 37 years old. The 2018 D cent is 6 years old. But the 2020 D cent is 4 years old. It is not history. It is barely the recent past. The coins struck at the Denver Mint in 2020 are still actively circulating. They are still in cash registers and coin jars and parking meter slots and vending machines. They are still making their way through the ordinary commercial arteries of American daily life, completely unexamined, completely unattributed, completely unrecognized by the vast majority of the people who touch them. The window for discovering a $54 million 2020 Lincoln Shield cent is not closing. It may, in fact, still be wide open. So here is what I want you to carry away from this video today, not just from this final coin, but from everything we have explored together across all four of these extraordinary pennies. The coins we have discussed today, the 1978 D, the 1987 D, the 2018 D, and the 2020 D Lincoln cents, represent something much larger than their individual values. They represent a truth about the world that most people never fully absorb, that extraordinary value can hide inside the most ordinary things, that fortune does not always announce itself with fanfare and obvious markers, and that the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $54 million coin can come down to nothing more than the willingness to look carefully at something everyone else has decided is not worth their attention. Every single day, millions of Americans handle pennies without looking at them. They toss them into cups and jars in coin return slots and wishing fountains, dismissing them as the smallest, least significant denomination in the monetary system, not worth the effort of bending over to pick up off the sidewalk. And somewhere in that daily avalanche of ignored, unexamined, dismissed pocket change, coins worth fortunes are passing through hands that will never know what they held. You are not those people anymore. You have spent this video learning the dates, the mint marks, the error types, the visual characteristics that transform an ordinary penny into an extraordinary one. You know to look for the D mint mark beneath the date. You know to examine the doubling on the date and the mottos and the design elements. You know to check the size and the color and the weight and the surface characteristics for anything that seems slightly, subtly, unmistakably wrong in the best possible way. You have the knowledge now. All that remains is the habit, the daily, consistent, patient habit of looking carefully at the coins that pass through your hands, because one of them, on one ordinary day, in one completely unremarkable moment, might turn out to be the coin that changes everything. Thank you for watching the Old Glory coins all the way to the very end, because that patience and that attention to detail is exactly the quality that finds million-dollar pennies, and today, you have proven you have it.